Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Opening Tee Podcast. I am your host for this short form podcast, Jason Roslin at DFS Golfer 23 on Twitter. This is a two-part series where in this first one, called the Opening Tee Podcast, I go over a couple of things from last week, a couple more stuff. I'll go over the details of that in a bit. And then tomorrow night, I do the recap, the Shot 3 from the Tee Podcast, I call it, as I go over some of the things that I guess here on this one, and a couple of more tidbits from the upcoming tournament. Each of these right now is sponsored by Super Draft. Of course, you can use the promo code AWESEMO to get $20 free on your first deposit. The nice thing about Super Draft is, and this was my first week playing it here, I was able to come in second in their golf contest this week. They have a multiplier effect, so I had 3 or 4 guys miss the cut, but because they had already scored almost 90 points with their multiplier, I had a pretty good week. So definitely something to take a look at. Super Draft, kind of new to the game here, so thank you to them for sponsoring the pods. And now we break out in this one, the Opening Tee Podcast. What I do first is I go over the foursome facts for the week. I give you 4 quick hitting facts from the golf around the world. Then I go give you my high and low for the week in my own personal DFS and betting recap. Then I have your not your average cut sweat. Crazy. I mean, this stuff, I probably say it every week. You can't make it up. It is incredible. It is great content to talk about. Gotta be honest with you. And then we'll go over a statistical review where I compare some traditional stats to the new age strokes gained. Then I followed up with a quick preview of the upcoming week. I give you kind of the field parameters, who is in the field, and what the top prices will be. All right, so let's kick it off with the foursome of facts for the week. Min Woo Lee. He's a guy I have been talking about quite a bit on the European Tour. I've rode him up a couple of different times, and he actually wins on his home course. He takes a 2-shot victory there. So 18-1 was the odds there. Really decent for a guy that had been playing very good all year. I missed the cut last week, but kind of tanked after starting off pretty well. Just tanked through into the weekend. So Min Woo Lee gets it done. Nick Taylor, switching over to the PGA Tour quickly. Nick Taylor did just enough with the putter to hold on to victory in some tough conditions at Pebble on Sunday. But really, he made every putt all week when they were showing him, at least. So no surprise. He's been simmering. No surprise to see him win with how good he putted, I should say. Certainly a bit of a surprise to see him take down this tournament. Although, we've seen this tournament yield those type of players or those type of victories with Ted Potter doing it a few years ago. Vaughn Taylor before that. So Phil Mickelson is just too bad. He gets ousted at this tournament by the Taylors, I guess. Last year, obviously, he beat Paul Casey, but could not get it done versus Nick Taylor or Vaughn Taylor, for that matter. So as we move on, I wanted to bring up one more comment from each of the tournaments around the world. The first one is the out-of-form once world elite showed up at Pebble. You saw Phil come in tied for third. Now, granted, Phil had been in a little bit better form. He had came in tied for third in Saudi Arabia a week before, so maybe he was trending in the right direction. But how about a 4th for Jason Day? And then a 9th for Jordan Spieth. I mean, Jordan Spieth had a really backdoor top 10, don't get me wrong. He had a great round on Sunday. One of his best rounds he's had in a real long time. It only took 45 mile an hour per winds, I guess, to get him going. But still, the once world elite, like I said, out of form, showed up this week, and maybe, hopefully, a trend that can continue, because I just like everybody playing their best, especially when it comes time for Augusta. Okay, and the last one is the inefficient odds to world ranking in the Euro market and the outside market. So Semi Valakami, and this one is I'm gonna screw up. So I just call him RSS. His first name is Robin. His middle name or surname is Cyan Zygerghost. It's real bad. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad with the French names. He's a 26-year-old, 25-year-old Frenchman in Semi Valakami, Valimaki, from Finland. I've written about these guys in the week and how their official world golf ranking was a little bit higher. They had some good starts recently and were priced above 200-1. Both of them, the RSS had a top 5 and Valimaki had a top 10. So really, really good payouts there. Certainly something to keep an eye on as we march forward and continue as more and more betting markets open up. These are things that we want to be on the lookout for. So 2 really good hits. And with the betting options available, you don't need to hit them as winners. We just need a top 20, a top 10, and a top 5. So obviously we got those. But those are the 4 some facts for the week. As we head into the high and low for the week for me, no doubt Patrick Rogers was the low for me. He cost me quite a bit of good contests. Also on the low side, I went all in basically on Dustin Johnson and Patrick Cantlay, and that took a lot of Jason Day off the table, and Jason Day was very important. So those are 2 lows. My high, Matthew Neesmith, who didn't even come in the top 10. I think he came in 11th, or maybe just below there in 15th. He was pretty good, not bad. Brendan Wu made the cut, but wasn't great. Jordan Spieth, top 10 maybe. It wasn't a good week for all intents and purposes. I had a couple of good lineups, but it wasn't a profitable week, so no real high, to be honest, to talk about. But let's go move to some more fun things as I kind of go on a somber note there. Let's move to some more fun things with not your average cut sweat. So we only have strokes gain data for 1 round, remember? And it was a 3-day cut, but we still got plenty of great content. How about Vaughn Taylor? Vaughn Taylor's in the middle of the fairway. All he needs to do is par. Had 120 yards in. Made bogey. Made 5. Bo Hogg, he needed 66, which was 6 under. He got there through 13 holes and then parred in. Oh, brutal. Absolutely brutal. I'm sorry, he was on Monterey Peninsula. He only needed 5 under. He was at 4 under through 13 holes and then parred in, needed just 1 more birdie, couldn't do it. Mark Hubbard, he needed 66. Went bogey free, but just couldn't get it done. Was 1 short, could not birdie 17 or 18. He got to 4 under on the day on 16 after the birdie, but could not par 17 or 18. Jim Furyk, now this is probably the worst one of the week. He makes double on 12. People write him off, right? Then he birdies 4 out of the next 5 to get on the line, get on -3, only to bogey the 18th hole at Pebble to miss the cut on the number. Brutal. That's I even wrote a little half laugh at the end of this one because that's probably the worst one of the week. You know, you write him off if you were following Shot Tracker. After the double, you basically unstar him from your favorites. You don't even give him a chance. Then you're scrolling by the cut line, and all of a sudden you see his name there after 17. You get all excited, and then just to have him throw one up there and bogey the 18th at Pebble. Brutal. Richie Wierenski, if you rostered him, you were fine until a 3-putt derailed him and derailed his Sunday. Now, how about something good? We've done a couple of bad ones, 4 or 5 bad ones. Zing Zoom Zag needed 67, needed 4 under, and got it from getting up and down from the bunker on 9 at Monterey. That was a good one. Nick Watney. Oh, God. This one might be worse than Jim Furyk's. Nick Watney needed to play the last 6 holes in 6 over or better. He didn't. He shot 6 over in his last 6 holes. Wow. I mean, you cannot make that one up. The next one, since we only had strokes gain data for 1 round, there wasn't as many guys that missed it just due to their putting, but I do have 4 names. Russell Knox, Andrew Landry, Arjon Atwal, and Brandt Snedeker all struggled putting on the POA at Pebble Beach. All struggled to the point where if they had just matched the field at their day on Pebble, they would have actually made the cut. So certainly maybe something to look at going forward for this week. As those are my not your average cut sweat segment. Really fun. Top ones this week: Jim Furyk, Nick Watney. At least the ones that I see: Jim Furyk and Nick Watney. And I'm hoping to maybe do a contest on our Live Before Lock show on Wednesday with Ben and I. We'll talk about it on the show, but I got a good idea for it having to do with this cut sweat thing. So we'll chat about it then. So let's move into the statistical review from last week. This is where I go over the traditional statistics versus the new age. So let's start with the new age on the strokes gained off the tee. Crazy to see this name up there, Zach Blair. That's how you can see distance mattered very little this week when you see Zach Blair up there. Although Kurt Kitayama, he can pipe the ball out there. Kevin Streelman, Joel Damon, Justin Hadley, Matthew Neesmith, Bo Hostler, Cam Davis, and Harry Higgs round out the top. Jim Herman on the driving accuracy side. Jim Herman, Doc Redman, Daniel Berger, Harry Higgs as a crossover, Troy Merritt, Chris Baker, Nick Taylor, Justin Hadley as a crossover. So only 2 crossovers there. I expected more, to be honest with you. But again, we only have 2 rounds of data. I'm also only giving the data for the guys that made the cut, just for transparency purposes. We moved to strokes gained on the approach, and here's a name. Now, this is one to certainly keep an eye on, and I'm not going to jump all in, but knowing me, I'll probably will. Jordan Spieth led the golfers that actually made the cut, so now only 2 rounds, but he did lead the field in strokes gained on the approach. Adam Schenk, Tim Wilkinson, Keith Mitchell, Kevin Stroman, Kevin Na, Chase Seifert, Joel Damon, and Joseph Bramlett round out the top for on the approach. As far as guys that had top greens in regulation that had some crossover, we had Kevin Streelman, Joseph Bramlett have some nice crossover. They were in the top 10 in greens in regulation. A couple of other guys in that: Sean O'Hare, Nick Taylor, Joel Damon, Harry Higgs, Wyndham Clark. Nice to see his irons tick up a bit. Tim Wilkinson, also some crossover, and Stuart Sink. All right, last one, putting. Chris Baker in his 2 rounds at Pebble looked very good. Nick Taylor, we already said, was phenomenal. Kevin Na, so not keeping up his approach game and his putting game. Scott Piercy looked really good with the putter for the 2nd straight week. Vincent Whaley, Alex Noren, and Harry Higgs. Switching over to the putts per GIR, which maybe gives us a little bit better sentiment of the putting over the 4 days, because it did measure all 4 days. Phil Mickelson, Nick Taylor, no surprise. Here we go with J.B. Holmes again. Keep an eye on him as the defending champion of this event coming up. Kevin Streelman, Peter Malnati, Scott Piercy, and Vincent Whaley. Okay, last one. I'm going to go over the birdie review this week. Last week, it showed us Xingju Zhang. It was a big reason why I played him this week. He was, again, relatively profitable, making the cut and putting up a good amount of birdies. This week, it was Kevin Streelman at 23, Phil Mickelson at 22. Nick Taylor had 21, but with 3 eagles. Then comes a couple of guys. Matt Jones and Ches Reavie had 20. Jason Day, Troy Merritt, Keith Mitchell, and Matt Every had 19. While Patrick Cantlay, Joseph Bramlett, Matt Kuchar, and Cameron Champ had 18. So just some guys to keep an eye on that may be scoring. We, of course, want positional points, but if we're looking to not maybe win the $5, so to say, these are guys that you can put in these higher dollar buy-ins. You don't have to worry about them blowing up on Sunday like Cam Champ did. They've given you a good value, and while you're not going to win a GPP with Cam Champ on your team this week, you might have won a higher dollar GPP with him, but maybe not the $5, but certainly another chance. So yeah, that covers up last week's action from around the globe. I don't do too much on the European Tour statistical side when there's not a big tournament the next week. Certainly as we get closer to the Open Championship in the middle of the summer, I'll go into a little bit more European Tour stats. Also, maybe if there's bigger prize pools on the DFS sites, I'll be inclined to do it as well. But until then, we'll just move straight on to the Genesis Invitational. And wow, what a week we have waiting for us. If you're not excited about this week, I don't know if you can get excited about PGA DFS, because it is going to be fun. Let's learn about it. So it's played at Riviera Country Club. What a special, called the Riv. For short, it's a par 71, 7,300 yards. It's par 3s. We're going to see a ton of shots from 150 to 200 yards this week. And I mean a ridiculous amount. Par 3s, 236, 200 yards, 192, and 166. The par 4s, almost every single one of them between 400 and 500 yards. No real short ones, no overly long ones. 471, 434, 434, 408, 434 again, 458, 315, 479, 459, and 475. Par 5s. The first hole is the easiest hole on the course every year. It's one of the easiest holes on the PGA Tour, actually, yielding 25 eagles last year. It's a 503-yard par 5. It's a beautiful hole. It's a great opening hole. 583 for the next one, and then 590 for the last one. So kind of lengthy on those last two. You can see why driving distance might matter here. We'll talk about that, though, in our statistical notes just at the end of this. So here's the field. The field's a little bit different in terms of the qualifications, as it's turned into an invitational. It's a Genesis Invitational, sponsored by Hyundai, obviously, with their Genesis car, and, of course, the Tiger Woods Foundation. So what does that mean? The field consisted of former winners of the Genesis Open. That's the last 4 years, so James Hahn gets in that way. Then you go through the players, the U.S. Open, the Masters, the Open Championship, the Tour Championship, the WGCs, then the other invitationals, Memorial and API, then the tournament winners, then the Ryder Cuppers, then the President Cuppers, then finally the top 125 from the FedEx Cup, of course, last year. Only up to 120 players, though, so not many golfers are getting in via that exemption. And then 2 more spots, you get 5 sponsors exemptions, or Tiger Woods does. And one of those is the Charles Sifford sponsors exemption, which will recognize a player of African American descent. I believe it is. I was just checking to see if it was just of other colored descent or of African American descent, but it looks like it's of African American. So that is a nice sponsor exemption, and then 4 other ones, as well as 2 from the Corn Ferry Tour Finals. So that gives us 55 of the world's top 100 here. Wow, that's pretty incredible. Might be the strongest field we get all year, other than the Players Championship and the majors. Just you don't see many of that. Even in WGC events, when there's 60 or so golfers, you don't normally get 55 of the top 100. And then 9 of the top 10 in the world are here. So 9 of the top 10 in the world, only missing Webb Simpson. Just really a great field. Really looking forward to it this week. It's going to be a lot of fun on a great golf course. That brings me into, or a good lead into, I should say, talking about the DFS contest for the week. Now, we only have 1 posted so far on DraftKings, but they are the biggest of the year. We've got a $20 buy-in, $800,000 guaranteed, $200,000 to first place going on. We've got a $3 with $150K guaranteed, the biggest that contest has been all year. And then the medium-sized buy-in, we have a $100 buy-in this week. That's going to give $100K to first, $400K guaranteed. And then the last one, kind of small. They did this because they didn't want to interfere with $100. They put a $555 buy-in, $50K to first, $200K guaranteed. But still, over $1.3 million guaranteed just in the first 4 contests. A good sign for the Genesis Invitational and a good sign for PGA DFS as a whole. DraftKings really up in the ante this week. I'm hoping FanDuel gives their product another chance and bumps their contest up, as well as SuperDraft. They put out $1,000 to first place last week, but we've been told they should be quite a bit bigger this week, and hopefully get some play over there. It's a lot of fun. It's just a great difference. I like different in being able to use different strategies, and SuperDraft allows you to do that. Okay, so let's go for the prices on DraftKings. That's a little bit more easy to guess, or at least I think so, where I give you the top 5. So I'm going to go Rory up front. I think that they've shown they're going to continue to price him above these other guys. For now, maybe they should. Maybe he should be priced above them as well. 11.5. They've also shown me that they don't want to go too high on these top price guys because they want people to roster them. We saw last week Dustin Johnson coming in at 11.4. I had him way higher than that. So I'm going to go a little bit more mild. 11.5 for Rory. JT coming off the 3rd place finish with pretty high ownership. I'm going to got him at 11.3. I've got John Rahm off of a decent finish and good high ownership at 11.1. So 3 guys above 11K this week for me. First time we're going to see that this year. DJ I've got sliding down at 10.9, but with good course history, they're going to put him there. They've also shown the propensity to put Tiger up here now over these last couple of tournaments. I think they go right back to that in the mid-10s at 10.6. Then, I know I still haven't mentioned the number 1 golfer in the world yet, Brooks Koepka. I got him throwing him at 10.k. I can't imagine they're going to price Xander or somebody like that above Brooks. So I've got Rory 11.5, JT 11.3, Rahm 11.1, DJ 10.9, Tiger 10.6, and Brooks 10.3 or 10.2. I should say low 10s for Brooks, mid 10s for Tiger, but now I'm kind of cheating. We don't want to do that. Okay, let's quickly, as we approach the 20-minute mark, let's give you a couple of statistics to look at. And I believe I've already chatted with Matt, and I believe we are back up and running. He was in the process of a move last week, and then the week before, I totally screwed it up. So We're on a 2-week run after going on for so long of not missing one. We're on a 2-week bad run, but looks like we'll get back tomorrow night as Matt will join me. It is the par fours. Obviously, the 400 to 500 category should cover a lot of them, but some weeks you get plenty under 400 and plenty over 500. Maybe not that often, but still, I would say a huge group in that 450 to 475 range. You don't even get over 475 that much. Actually, you don't get over 475 at all. So that medium range par fours, which obviously you can't hit driver off every single one. That's why the approach is from 150 to 175. I can't tell you how little I've seen from 50 to 125. The average shots last year was like 7 in the entire tournament for golfers that made the cut. Maybe some were even in 6. No golfer had less than 10 approaches from the 175 to 200 number last year. So it just shows you how more important it's going to be for those middle to longer irons. You saw J.B. Holmes really excel at both of those categories last year en route to victory. So something to certainly take a look at. Also, the last 4 winners here, or I should say the winners in the last 4 years, Bubba Watson's done it twice, DJ and J.B. Holmes, all of those guys ranked inside the top 16 on the PGA Tour in driving distance last year. So as you can see, driving distance certainly a key this week. You could even throw in Thomas Peters, who came in second here in his one attempt. Pretty much that's all Peters does is drive the ball far away. So driving distance, highly correlated to the winner, probably one of the highest correlations all year that we're going to see. So lock and load the Bombers, and that is my message for at least today. I will be back on the airwaves tomorrow night or maybe Tuesday morning, depending on when we're able to put it out for the Shot 3 from the Tee podcast. Until then, I'm going to have, of course, the First Cut article, which is already live now that you can read on osmo.com/PGA. That is free each and every week. Then, of course, I'll have a couple more pieces on Monday, and we're going to be having a new show on Monday, a new live stream with Geoff Ulrich of DraftKings. He's been doing a lot of their stuff on the sweat, so he will be doing a first look betting and PGA DFS show on Monday evenings. So look for that as well coming up as we bump up our golf content in preparation for the Masters, and of course maybe even say in preparation for the Genesis Invitational going forward, because there's some great prize pools this week and a great field. So we look forward to covering it for you this week here at osmo.com, and thank you so much for joining. And we'll see you all again soon, everybody. Cheers.